a matter of survival as the representative of our people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Timothy Wanyonyi, the MP for Westlands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me a chance also to speak on this motion. Mr. Speaker, if I asked you, what do you call this thing in your mother tongue? Do we have it even described in African languages, how it's called? Because it doesn't exist, and it never existed. You remember in the history, the Mwanga of Uganda, those small boys used to be called peches. They used to be used as bets for this kind of thing, and those who used to be there, they used to be called eunuchs. And those are the things that these people want to teach us, Mr. Speaker. I remember once when we went to see the Pope as Catholic members of Parliament, he told us that when we come to Parliament, we should not leave our faith outside Parliament. We should always come in armed with our faith, legislate, remembering that we are Christians, we have our values, we have even our African values. They don't prescribe this kind of behavior. And as parents, Mr. Speaker, we must be very worried because these people are targeting our young people. Because this thing is infiltrating in our colleges, in our higher learning institutions, and this is the thing that they are trying to do. Remember, Mr. Speaker, in the last parliament, or maybe the 10th parliament, the 11th parliament, Mr. Speaker, there was a member who attempted to introduce a bill that was prescribing some of these things to protect the rights of people or who want to marry people of the same sex. And Mr. Speaker, we realized that and we rejected it. So, Mr. Speaker, what the Supreme Court has done is like they are making judgment not for our society, not for this nation, disregarding everything, and they want us to believe that this ruling is for the right of these people. How do we recognize an amorphous group that is not even recognized in our laws, in our constitution? We cannot do that. Or the right of association, Mr. Speaker, you remember there was a group from South Nyanza that had demanded that they wanted to be recognized, that night runners be recognized as a sport in the Olympics. Mr. Speaker.
And you can see Honorable Karoli Omundi is laughing because he knows where those people come from.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, and then many other groups will come on board and start demanding for their rights, that let us be recognized because we belong here, we belong this, and on, Mr. Speaker. And we continue like that, then we'll find ourselves wiped out from the face of the earth. If we cannot procreate, Mr. Speaker, then there will be no future generation that will come in after us. In Europe, Mr. Speaker, we are having the older generation. It's more than the younger generation, and they're having a very huge gap between the older and the young people. So what we must do, Mr. Speaker, we must guard ourselves, we must protect our culture, we must protect our children, and Mr. Speaker, we must say no to anything that is going to destroy our values. Mr. Speaker, thank you for giving me a chance to speak on this motion. Thank you.
The Honorable Yakubu Ado, MP for Bura constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on this very important motion. I want to thank the member who initiated this motion. It's a very sad day for our great nation. Even for the essence of just talking about this topic is bad. I have seen Mheshimiwa Ngeno finding it difficult even to pronounce these bad names. So for me, Even talking about it is bad. I'm a Muslim by faith, and in the Quranic version, chapter 16, verse 72 says, "And Allah has made for you of yourself spouses, and made for you from your spouses sons and daughters and grandchildren." I want to challenge anybody who is pursuing this dream to show us any offspring raised from this association. We can go further and further in terms of provision of chapters in every faith, be it Islamic, be it Christianity, that condemns and illegalizes that kind of association. I don't want even to mention the name. I want to condemn that decision by the Supreme Court on this issue, and want to associate myself with the opinion of the minority of those judges. I want to laud on the same voice again His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of Uganda, for having taken that bold step. And I have heard that even Uganda, after he has just assented to that law, they got a very heavy downpour, a heavy rainfall. Even for us in Kenya, I believe, as a Muslim, the many problems and challenges we are facing on this earth is because of such kind of vices, which the West intend now to put into our midst. It is time we don't sit on the fence, we don't bury our heads in the sand, we come forward and challenge this vice that wants to be brought to our youth. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honorable Karoli Omondi, MP for Suba South.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. And for the record, night running is one of the indigenous sports. Mr. Speaker, I rise to add my voice to this motion, and I would like to begin by stating that I firmly believe in the natural order of things, and that, like magnetism, opposites attract. And I also appreciate the genius of God in creating the instruments of affection and attraction between people of different gender and making them to have universal application and standards, if you know what I mean. But, Mr. Speaker, life has its own complications and contradictions. So does nature. If you remember the very smart people who drafted the American Declaration of Independence, Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and the rest of them, they say that all men are created equal and each is endowed with certain inalienable rights, amongst them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yet these men, with such elevated ideas and statements, owned slaves. There are many contradictions in the way human beings live and conduct themselves. So is in nature. This thing, the topic we are talking about, LGBTQ, if you look at those particular abbreviations, some of them present very complicated medical conditions. For example, transgender, where someone's gender identity is very different from what is typically known to humanity. Or intersex, where really one is endowed by both sexual organs. It is easy when you talk about lesbians, where a woman is attracted to another female, or gay, where one is attracted to people of the same gender, or one is bisexual, or is queer. Or queer is where the gender is fairly fluid. Or there's a new one, questioning, where nobody is still not quite clear what their gender identity is. Or even where one is asexual, where there's no sexual attraction. Mr. Speaker, these things present very complex issues that I see a lot of passion and I see a lot of interest in this.